I'm excited for our next guest, who is Pauline Tremblay, and she is in the hair department. So all the talent that goes in will meet her on set. So we're going to take a bit of a break, 10 minutes. So do whatever you need to do, and I'll see you in about 15 minutes.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Pauline.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here today, and I'm glad that you're here too. And thanks for waiting. As Darlene said, I'm a hairstylist. And of course, I work in IATSE 891, which is the largest film union in North America. It's all over the United States and all over Canada as well. My job position is head of department. And so when I'm hired for a job, they hire me as the head of the hair department. The jobs in my department are head of department, or HOD, as we call each other, assistant hairstylist, and the second assistant hairstylist. Now, the second assistant hairstylist is the entry-level position. That's the job that if you decide you're going to be a hairdresser, or you're already one, and you decide to come into IATSE, you will begin as a second assistant hairstylist. And my job entails quite a number of things. As head of department, there's a lot of responsibility. But first of all, I hire my team. So if you are on the permittee list and I need a second assistant, I will be calling and hiring possibly you. I usually hire between 2 to 3 assistant hairstylists. Those are the ones that work the closest with me. And then the second assistant is the next down. And generally, the second assistants are the ones that do background. We've all seen those big, huge cocktail party scenes, and the people all in the background that don't have lines, those are the people that you'll be doing. The other important part is we have a lot of meetings. Being a hairdresser is not just doing the actor's hair, which is of course the most, it's the most favorite part for me. I mean, I love doing hair. I'm creative and I'm a hairstylist, and this is what I do. But besides that, before we get to that part, when I'm hired for a show, I have to do a lot of prep, which means reading the script probably 5-6 times, finding out what the character is, who is this actor playing, are they working at a little store at the corner, are they a dancer, are they a CEO or a doctor? And then I do research on the actors, and I find out what kinds of hairstyles did they wear before, what do I think would suit them best for this particular role. Preparing for the meetings are important because the meetings are with the director, the producers, a number of other people, costume designers, etc. And when we have the meetings, I have to present my ideas or my designs that I feel are best suited for that actor or actress in the show that we're going to be doing. So there's so much to do. There's also a meeting with the actors. I have to call them ahead of time before the meetings, have a little conversation with them about what they are interested in having. A lot of them have their own particular ideas that you might have to work around. Sometimes it might not be a great idea, and then I might have to convince them that I have a better idea. And this is how it goes. And then we do tests. I set up times for tests so that we can actually try these hairstyles out on them, see if it's going to work. Do they need to have maybe some extensions? Excuse me. Maybe their hair is not that thick. Maybe we need to thicken it up a little. Maybe they're going to be wearing a wig. That's another thing that we have to find out. If there's going to be a wig, then we have to arrange to have it made. So there's a lot to prep for. Prep is what you do before you actually go to camera. So that all has to be sorted out. So that's my job pretty much. I got my start in the industry through a conversation that I had with one of my sisters, Kathleen, one day. I'd been hairdressing for 17 years and I wasn't quite enamored with it at that point. I still really liked doing hair, but I think I was a little just tired and kind of bored and needed to be, have something that was more challenging. So my sister said to me, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, who does those people's hair on television? That's like my small little dream, right? It was like, who did their hair? She said, I don't know, but she said, I'm going to call you back in 20 minutes. And she said, make a phone call and find out. and boom, that was it. So I had to do something. I ended up calling CBC, which was ended up being my first job. But through the phone call, I ended up talking to the supervisor who invited me down. She ended up teaching me how to do makeup. And I was hired 8 months later. I got a 1-year contract. From the contract, what the real reason that she hired me was because I was a qualified hairdresser who had a little bit of makeup. But at CBC, they have makeup artists who have a little bit of hair. They're not really qualified. So I ended up being given the show. Paul Anka show was a show that they were having starting in October when I was hired, and I was assigned to him because I could then cut his hair, do his hair, which he was quite, it was quite important to him to have a really good haircut, and I could do his makeup. And from that, I ended up actually traveling around the world with him. I worked with him for a couple of years, so that was exciting. So from that, you know, getting a start like that, it's like anybody can make a cold call. You can do something. Don't be afraid. If you really have in your mind that you really want to do something, just do it. And I really encourage you to do that. The important things that you have to have in place before you actually can land your first job in the film industry, in the hair department, is, first of all, you have to be a fully qualified hairstylist. That means you have to go to school. So if you decide to go that route, it means you probably have to do a little bit of research. In the Lower Mainland, we have a lot of different schools that are quite popular. There's probably some on the island as well, I would imagine now, in Victoria. Being fully qualified means that you complete your course, you have a diploma, but the diploma isn't enough. You now have to fulfill a requirement that we have in the union. And as chair of the hair department, I see a lot of application forms and a lot of resumes. And the one thing you have to have is either the provincial Red Seal certification, or it's the Beauty Council of Western Canada. They also have an equivalency exam. Now, these are both exams that you have to take, and I would suggest if you're going to do that, take them right after you've finished your diploma, because all that information is fresh in your mind then, and it'll be easier. So the skills that you'll need, or some of the skills that you'll need in the film industry, very, very important. Long hair updos. A lot of people are scared of long hair because it's long. It's really, you know, in the beginning, it's not easy to get up. It can be a bit of a challenge, but honestly, I couldn't do it at first either. But I ended up learning, and long hair is one of my favorite things to do. I absolutely love it. It's a lot of fun. So you can change something for yourself, you know, something that's frightening. You can decide to go on YouTube. If you're not getting enough instruction at your school, you can talk to your instructor. Practice on family, practice on your girlfriends, people that you know. Just get that experience. The one thing that's really important now is textured hair. We call it textured hair. It's African American hair. On every single show that we have come to Vancouver, we have African American actors. We also have Canadian actors that are part Jamaican or Caribbean, and this is the hair that we really need to master. There are classes online, lots of excellent classes. In schools now, they're starting to teach these skills. It wasn't so common before, but now we need to know. Braiding techniques, need those. Good styling skills with all lengths of hair. By that I mean you have to have a good grip on the curling irons and on the flat irons. You can curl with a flat iron. You can also wave with a flat iron. People typically think it's a flat iron, so it flat irons the hair. It does. But if you know your tools, like a curling iron, you can use it to straighten. So it's really mastering those things, and those are really important skills that we need all the time in the film industry. And the type of person that does well in my position or personality is somebody who's confident. If you're not confident, you can work on it. Some of these things are things you can actually work on. And, you know, not everybody comes fully formed being confident. I wasn't hugely confident as a young woman, but I've worked on it and I'm very confident now. Creativity, you have to have a lot of creativity to do this work. Friendly, outgoing, respectful. Now, respect is something that is really crucial because, you know, we're not only working with producers and directors and actors, you're working with your peers, people who are on your team. You're working with people. When you come for an interview, you may drive through the gate and meet security. You may get lost and you may have to ask some guy who's sweeping the lot up. Respect every single person who comes before you. This is just a good lesson in life. And honestly, it'll get you so far. It's really important to be respectful to your supervisor as well. Because, you know, they're the ones that have hired you and maybe they won't hire you again. So being a good listener, it's important to listen because you need to learn. And when you first come on set, if people are directing you to do certain things, please listen. It's really important. You just never know what you can learn, some small tidbit of something. And you just need to open your mind, open your heart, and just accept that these are the things that are really important to get forward in life. Work experience. Now, for myself, I really started from scratch. I mean, when I was at CBC, they had me going out and volunteering at high schools to teach how to do makeup. I was terrified. But you know, you can do it. You can go to your local theaters and ask if they need help, maybe offer to do hair for them. You can do weddings on the side even if you're going to school. You don't have to be 100% have that nailed down. Practice, like I said earlier, practice on your friends, do brides, do bridesmaids, do that kind of hair on your friends and get the experience. Commercials, I did a lot of commercials when I first started. I didn't do independent films. I never did get into that, but all of the things that I've mentioned to you, when you start out, you don't have a resume, but you need a resume. And my first resume had on, I worked at the Arts Club Theater. I did I did worked at some high school and I did the makeup. I just put everything down that I'd done because you have to fill it out. So it's really important to just put yourself out there. And I think that's all I have to say today, but honestly, I absolutely love what I do. Even now, I've had a really long career in hairdressing. I've been hairdresser for 56 years, and I've been in the film industry for 39, and I still love doing hair, and I love the industry. Yeah, there's a lot of things that, you know, aren't that fun, but that's every job. My tip for today is do what you love. Even if you think you don't love it yet, just if you have a real interest in hairdressing, go for it. And I'll answer any questions that I can today. So take good care. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you, Pauline. That was great. Yeah, that's one of the as an actor, that's always one of the steps on the road is to stop in and get either the consultation. You know, I often go in a day ahead, get the consultation, and then back onto set. And one of the questions I have is, because I have thin, fragile hair,
Mm-hmm.
when I walk in to get my hair done for set, I'm a little nervous because whoever might be doing my hair that day, I'm probably, it may be the only day they see me if I'm just there for a day's work. And I get very nervous about the back combing and the spray and all that kind of stuff damaging. How concerned can you be as a professional? I mean, your job is to create a hairstyle and have that person on set. How much room is there for you to be sensitive to an actor's fears about their hair?
Oh, honestly, I have to care 100%. 100%. Because first of all, an actor sits in my chair and I want them to leave feeling really good about themselves. I want them to feel as if they're handsome or beautiful. You know, I think it's really important. To me, hair, the texture, I have the same kind of hair, Darlene, so I really understand that. But no matter what the texture of hair, it's really important to have a conversation with you and to find out what your fears are. And then I can try and eliminate those by using the proper products, by planning to use certain techniques, maybe less heat, maybe putting your hair in pin curls after I've blown it dry, and after I've been very careful with layering different products into it. To me, that is crucial. It's number one, because if an actor goes to set and they're thinking about how bad their hair looks or how damaged it got, you're not going to be able to concentrate on what you're supposed to be saying and doing your job. So if that's happened, I haven't done my job.
That's wonderful to hear. I'm sure there's more than a few actors that are logged into this, and I think what you're saying is music to their ears. So we've got a question here, Pauline. Do you have any stories from the set of Jumanji?
Oh, that was such a wonderful show to work on. And I actually was an assistant hairstylist on that. I wasn't head of department, but I asked because the woman who was the head of department was my mentor, one of my mentors. And so I phoned her and asked her if I could work with her. And she went, "What?" She said, "You're doing head of department stuff now." And I said, "No, I want to work with you. I know I can learn more." So anyway, Robin Williams, oh my gosh, guys, he was amazing. He really was. He was just this beautiful, sweet human being. I'm so grateful that I had the pleasure to meet him. I didn't do his hair, but I did get to work with him. And when we were on set, outside, he did this often. This is the kind of person he was. He was a natural comedian. He didn't have anything prepared. He would go up to the people. I mean, they had that tape, you know, where they were taping off the people from the area so that they couldn't kind of get to him. But he walked straight up to them, shook hands, got down, said hello to all the children, and then he proceeded to whatever they had on, if they had a hat or he would just use them as material, and then he would put on a show. I absolutely loved it. I loved working with him. There's a few stories, but yeah.
Well, Ken, who was on before you, also shared similar sentiments about what a great guy he was to work with. So it's wonderful to hear those stories. Okay, we have another question from Leslie. Hairspray, hair fixatives, have you encountered actors with sensitivity to these, and what do you use as alternatives?
Oh my gosh, all the time. Oh, and it's, you know, it's difficult because I've had actors say to me, "No, you're not using any hairspray. I don't care what kind it is." And so that's a huge problem. So, you know, we really have to keep their hair sometimes looking exactly like how it was when they left the chair. They have to have that hair all day long,
Yes.
regardless of what the weather is. So, you know, you have to have a real serious conversation with them and find out what you can use then to kind of build the hair up underneath, like what to put on beforehand. Like when you blow it dry, can you use, I don't know, mousse or a stronger mousse, or, you know, what is it that they don't like about the spray? And sometimes maybe you can try and find out maybe it's the smell. If it's the smell, then maybe you can get something unscented. You always need to really have a good conversation with them about it and find out, is it an allergy or what is it?
Yeah.
That's, the best that I can say about that, but it can be a problem.
So I guess it sounds like one of the things I'm really admiring as I get to know you is your openness, that you don't have kind of a set way that things need to be done and you proceed that way. But it sounds like you really develop a good relationship with the people who are in there to see you for this, and you listen to them. So wonderful.
Definitely. It has to be that way for me, in my opinion, because I need to work with this person for 5 months or however long this project is. If they are one of the leads and they keep coming back, I don't want to, you know, create a situation where they feel like they're not being heard. So this is why it's important to listen.
Yeah.
You have to start the conversation. You have to be willing to be open and not rigid. And I'm not rigid I'm not married to using any particular product or whatever. I ask them what they like to use. I ask them how much they want to use. I get the whole story. But I also, in phoning them in advance, I'm laying the groundwork to develop a relationship with them, to have the best communication that I possibly can. To me, that's super important. You have to have that. Otherwise, it can be so difficult.
Yeah, understood. That's wonderful. My good friend Joyce is online here, and she's asking, how important is research in period films? So when you're doing one of those, is it you or who does the research that determines what the various styles are going to be, hairstyles are going to be?
So in my career, I haven't done a lot of period shows, but I've done some. And so you have to do your own research. Like for me, I'm just that person. I need to have my own research material and read it or look at the photos myself. I have a lot of books that I'm very grateful to have that I've collected over the years that have done me very well. I've also I started doing tear sheets and I have tear sheets from the 50s all the way through, and I have a big binder. That's another thing that you guys can do. I know a lot of people like they go online now, but I love nothing more than to pull my binder out. I've got that. But besides that, we have to collaborate. It's just not me. I have to collaborate with costumes. Are they wearing hats? Um, we did the Titanic, and so a lot of people were wearing hats. Those were all period hairstyles, and I was an assistant on that. And they had photos. So usually, what you do is you get your photos, you present them in meetings, but also the director and the producers. You can bet your bottom dollar they've got ideas of their own. They always do. So I
Right.
think it's really collaborative. But
Hmm.
as a hairstylist and as a designer, I need to have my own say as well. It's important to me to have my input,
Hmm.
particularly if you're putting hats or something into the hair. You have to design it correctly to suit that.
Great. Okay. Pauline, Andrew is asking, do you have a preference between the pre-production and design work with the actors or the on-set day-to-day styling while shooting?
Well, gosh, that's a great question. I love it. You know what? I like it all, but of course, prep is completely different. Prep can be a couple of weeks of just madness, and you're like cramming it all in together, trying to get everything done, fit all these meetings in. I love meeting with the actors. I love my first meetings with the actors. I think that's one of my very favorite parts because this is where I can establish a relationship with them. I can establish looks with them. It's like playtime for me.
Mhm. Yeah.
So as a hairdresser, as a hairstylist who loves hair, to me, that's like a gift. It's playtime. So I love that. Day-to-day work on set, that's me going to work every day as head of department. And all of the styles that I've established, first of all, you do establish looks as you go through the story. So you may come in and out of those different looks. But once they're established, you're on set really taking care of the hair, kind of babysitting hair.
Right.
And if you're shooting outside, then you also have to be mindful that you talk to the ADs and see if they can have a silk put over top so the hair's not going to get wet. There's lots of things to think about on set. It's very different. It's more like you're down there now and you're getting dirty and you're you're doing the work.
Uh,
It's all work, but yeah, of course I have my favorite parts. I don't mind being on set at
yeah.
all and taking care of the actors.
Okay, good. We have another question from another friend of mine, Charles Isherwood. And he says, thanks for your presentation, Pauline. He's got two questions. One, Tremblay is not all that common a name. And the only other time I've heard it is Jacob. Are you related?
Thank you. No, but guess what? I worked with him.
That's
Him
great.
last year on Twilight Zone. Yes, he was in the first season. And
Great.
tremblay is very common back east, though, in Quebec. They have a picnic every year for the tremblays, and now it's up in the thousands. When I first heard about it, there was only like 200-300 people, but
That's a riot. Oh,
anyway.
that's funny. And his second question was, did you work on Jason Momoa's hair on Stargate Atlantis? And if so, was it difficult?
I did, but he came with those, so that's what he wore in his real life. It wasn't like we sent him out to have them done or anything. He had that hairstyle. That was what he liked. So for me, I basically just had to really, because it grew, of course, as we were working on this project for a few months. And the edges would start to come out. They were starting to get kind of curly and frayed. And I would just book the time every morning, and I would use gel, certain products to smooth everything back. And then I would just use my tail comb, kind of twist it all in. And yeah, I did this whole little framework around here
Yeah.
every day for the months that we worked together, because he didn't want to have them taken out. So then you have to, I just had to figure it out.
Yeah.
Nobody told me what to do. But once you get some experience under your belt as a hairdresser, a lot of stuff gets thrown at you. No one has to show you how to do it. You just kind of have to figure it out.
Right.
Or do some research.
Yeah. Great.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for your questions.
Tracy was asking, do you recommend submitting headshots of your work with a resume?
Yes, we usually like to see a book, or sometimes now what they're doing is they're working on maybe like a 1.5 presentation that you can do online, and then you can just send that to somebody. And that's a really great way. I mean, we used to always have to bring our books in. Big, huge.
Yeah.
Went to Opus and got the book, and then had all my headshots in there, because they didn't used to ask for them when I first started. They didn't ask for anything. But
Yeah.
then later it was like, okay, people are asking for books now. Yikes. So then you had to come up with it. So the one suggestion that I have, guys, is if you do take hairdressing, take pictures of every single one of your pieces of work.
Right.
Take
Well, of course.
pictures of the front and the sides and the back, just for your own reference, how you did it, but always take photos.
And these days, I think a lot of artists are posting on Instagram as well. So keeping maybe an electronic portfolio is one thing. Posting probably the best of your work on Instagram is another way to get your work out there, I would assume. And what looks like our final question here, Pauline, from Libby. How would you prepare if you are working on a film set in the 80s or any period piece? So what does your preparation look like?
Oh, I love doing period stuff. I really do. I enjoy it a lot. But of course, then I lived through it, and I did the hair too.
Yeah.
But I always still do my research. I go online, or I just go into my own book, which I have tons of 80s looks.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of refresh my mind about what those looks were. Lots of perms,
Mm-hmm.
curly hair, lots of big bangs.
Oh, yes, I remember it well.
Yeah, and we all had that hair, right? So yeah, I just keep saying, research is super important. You can never dispel that. That's probably your number one go-to thing. Now, if you get asked to go onto a show where they have that, they usually are prepared. The head of department should have photos and have them up so that the second assistants can follow what it looks like.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pauline. That brings us to the end of your session. Great job.
Thank you.
I think everybody who attended here has a much better idea what it might be like in your department. And any of the others who are, I mean, everybody on the set almost is going to run into you in one way or the other. So it's always good to know what goes on behind those curtains. So thank you for that. And I'm going to let you go now, and please enjoy the rest of your afternoon. And again, thanks for all your time and coming and sharing your expertise.
Very much, Darlene. Thanks, everybody. I've enjoyed it.
Okay.